Well, I think somebody had better see if I'm awake or if I'm stuck in a sense of false reality because we have Lewis Hamilton on pole ahead of Max Verstappen. Are we back in 2021? I have absolutely no idea. I just hope that they can fight this year without trying to take each other out on the first lap. Welcome back to episode 310 of Grid Talk, where today we are here to discuss qualifying for the Hungarian Grand Prix. My name is Tom Downey, and joining me, I have Warren Schorr of the Paddock Pals podcast. Hello, sir.
How's it going, Tom?
I'm very well. How are you?
Great. I'm doing great.
Good stuff. Just before we get into this episode, we must thank our sponsor for today, Bet Online. So, Bet Online is your number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. Bet Online continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use promo code BLEAV, that is BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. Also, if you enjoyed this podcast, we would love it if you could take 5 to leave us a 5-star rating on Spotify or a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. If you're one of the 72% of people who are not yet subscribed to the channel, please consider helping us out with a like and a subscribe. Also, final bit of housekeeping, I promise. Be sure to follow us on our brand new social channels at Grid Talk UK to stay up to date with all the latest news from the show. So, Warren, back at the Hungaroring, bit of a sort of like divisive track, certainly divides opinion. We'll start at the bottom of the grids, and once again, it is his first season in F1. Your home driver, so to speak. Obviously, Warren, we're one of our resident American panelists. So if we look at the Williams drivers, Logan Sargent ultimately is starting the race P20, and his teammate Alex Albon just went out in Q1 P16. Do you think Williams could have got a bit more out of today, or do you think P16 was perhaps a bit of a sort of jump back down to reality for them?
I think Albon probably could have done a little better than P16, and maybe Sargent could have fought maybe for like 15, 16, somewhere in that. But again, like the characteristics of the car, this is not a car that does well at this type of track. They do better with, they do great with their straight line speed and everything. There's not a lot of straight line speed at this track. There's basically none. And I don't think their slow speed corners are very good. So this track doesn't really suit them very well. So maybe they could have done a little better. And you can see like Logan in his last lap, he had to go over, kind of cut the corner in the chicane. Albon had a good time deleted. Sargent had a good time that was deleted. So they just couldn't really get the confidence in it today. This isn't their best track. I think next week at Spa, I think they're going to have a nice weekend next weekend. But this weekend, I don't think the car really suits the characteristics of the track. And I'm a little disappointed that Logan's in 20s because he has been showing some progression over the last couple of races and getting better. And maybe this is a small step back. But again, I think with the characteristics of the car, this isn't really a place where you would think that he would succeed. Maybe Albon, you're the one that you would be more disappointed he couldn't get into Q2. But Sargent, I think you're kind of like, all right, he would have probably been a big favorite to get knocked out in Q3 or in Q1. Sorry, Q1.
Yeah, and it is worth noting that Albon did have a track time deleted for track limits, where we heard that phrase this year. I believe it was turn 5, so he was up into about P8, P7, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
So I think P16, he definitely had more pace than that, but it was just unfortunate with track limits. But also, we saw quite a few drivers getting stung for track limits today, and rules are rules, aren't they? But just looking a little bit further up the grid, so next we're going to have a quick chat. There's probably not much to say about them. The Haas drivers of Kevin Magnussen. First of all, K-Mag, that you listen to this. Congratulations on the birth of your second child. He qualified P19. Really solid effort. And then Nico Hulkenberg with his Ken Quiff qualified into the top 10. To be fair, he got into Q3, qualified P10. Was only about a tenth behind Perez in the Red Bull, who shocked everyone by getting into Q3. Now, this year, it's going to be a bit of a broken record, this one. Haas, they seem to qualify well, or certainly Hulk does, but they just then seem to fall back in the race. I mean, do you think Hulk's going to fall back tomorrow? I mean, K-Mag can't fall much further back, but do you think they've got any hope, or do you think they're, once again, it's a false dawn for them?
I would say with the cars that are behind them, that he's probably going to fall back, especially like the Ferrari. Maybe the only saving grace is that this track is so hard for them to overtake on that he could hold off for that. But I also don't think like Hulkenberg's racecraft is that great. He's shown this year that great on one lap speed and qualifying. I got to look at the numbers, but he's probably had to out qualify K Mag, 7-3, something like that. It seems like all the time he's out qualifying him. But I think he's just going to fall back. I don't think that car is very good at all. I've been saying for a while, and I've come on here that they need to make a change with Gunter, but that's probably not going to happen because he just doesn't. He's not a very good team principal. I hate to say it. He's a very entertaining for the Drive to Survive people and off the track stuff. But if you look at what he's produced, they got Hulkenberg in to finish try and finish fifth in the constructor standing, and they're fighting at the bottom. This is not what they were hoping for. The car they always come with like one of the most developed cars at the beginning, and they never bring any seems good upgrades. I think that's what's happening again this year. So Hulkenberg, yes, I would expect him to fall back. If he somehow got points, I think that would be a great driver. And hey, maybe he's licking his chops that Max and Lewis are front row and they'll just take each other out, and then that opens up the spot for a couple more points positions. But I think Hulkenberg is going to climb his way back. K-Mag, look, I thought K-Mag would get a little new baby bounce, as they say. That obviously did not happen. That did not work out for him.
Yeah, I was thinking the same with K-Mag. You'd hope that it'd sort of be like, do it for the kids kind of thing. It's like, yeah, well, then you've qualified P19. It is worth noting as well, I've just checked the FIA website because both Haas had summons for failing to electronically return tyres, which is a new one that I've certainly heard. But to the best of my knowledge, this means that the team manager or a delegate in Haas didn't inform the FIA that they had returned. It turns out sets of intermediates after practice and before qualifying has been fined €5,000 per driver. So that's a 10 grand fine for the team. They're sponsored by MoneyGram. I think a sponsor with money could probably afford it. So yeah, so failure to electronically return tyres. I was going to say, I don't really know how you'd email assess the tyres, but there we go. Ask Toto, he likes sending emails. Next up the grids, let's have a quick chat about the AlphaTauris. So Yuki Tsunoda qualifies P17. And he got out qualified by his teammate no, that's the wrong one. Sorry, Daniel Ricciardo back on the grid. Yeah, I wonder how many people have done that joke. That was bad, even by my standards. Danny Rick going to Q2, qualified P13 in Q2, and I certainly thought that he looked like he had a bit of pace about him. He's fairly comprehensively outqualified his teammate, obviously with a step softer tyres into Q2, because this weekend we had the new qualifying format, or tyre format, which we'll chat about after. Do you think Danny Rick can use some of his experience? Obviously, 8-time race winners, people like to say. Do you think he can use some of that experience, maybe take advantage of someone like the Haas falling back in front of him to maybe get a point on his return?
Maybe if he can intimidate Carlos Sainz, that's a good strategy that he could work out there, because he's going to have to get past the Ferrari, which we'll talk about later. But I don't know. I said at the beginning of the week when we did our preview pod that he would get 11th this week, so I guess he's going to have to climb up from that. That was my bold prediction. I think. Look, he outqualified Yuki on the same set of tires by 0.13 of a second, so he just nicked him there. I was pleasantly surprised that he got out of Q1, if I'm going to be honest. That AlphaTauri is so bad. And to walk in right off the street basically and get it into Q2, that's pretty good. And I'm not a Danny Rick hater, I'm just a little tired of everybody getting so happy he's on the grid and everything like that. It's like, all right, we get it. He's a great personality, but like, let's calm down. Remember what he did at McLaren last year was not good. And that was a competitive car. Like he lost confidence or something. He's not the driver he was in the Red Bull whenever he left there. So I think we all need to take a step back on that. But this was an impressive performance by him. This was very impressive to get into Q2. And Yuki, it's a tough look for Yuki. I hate to say it. I like Yuki, but you get out qualified by Danny in the first time he steps in. That's a tough one. And I think everyone's talking about Ricardo's like, oh, the pressure if he wants to get a better seat, this and that. The pressure is all on Yuki here. He has to outperform Ricardo consistently to show that he's worthy of the AlphaTauri or somewhere else. Because if he doesn't, then it's going to be like, okay, you've had more experience in the car. He could be potentially in trouble. I think he's the one I think that is going to have the most pressure on the grid of anybody about this move.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got to be honest, Warren, I do kind of agree with you about your view on Danny Rick. Yes, he won a race at McLaren, but he won a race at Monza, which is the same circuit when Nick De Vries got points, so take from that what you will. Not exactly a difficult circuit.
And Lewis and Max both crashed each other out. Remember, it wasn't like he beat both of them on the thing. So the two clear best drivers that season, they took each other out. So it was wide open for him.
Yeah, so, they're starting on the front row tomorrow. So maybe we'll have something similar. I doubt it, and I genuinely hope we don't get something like that.
Yes.
Not that I think we will. Although Bottas is in the mix, so oh god, here we go. But yeah, no, it's AlphaTauri. It is just that car's just absolute dogs this year. We've talked about it enough on this show, and I also agree with your point that I think putting Danny Rick in that car now that he's out qualified Yuki's first race back at a pretty difficult circuit, to say as well, I think it's just going to raise more problems than it solves. Because Red Bull are going to go, well, hang on, what do we do with this? There's the whole question of Checo's seat and all the rest of it. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, that'll be an interesting one to watch. The next team we're going to talk about is the Alpines. So Pierre Gasly was P15 in the end. He had a track time deleted. I think he was out in Q2 anyway. I think he'd gone about P12, P13, but had his time deleted for track limits. Esteban Ocon, P12. So both out in Q2. Maybe a little bit of a disappointing showing from them, given, if you look at how quick they were around Monaco, and, as I always say, and because people always say Hungary, Monaco without the walls. It's like, it's just like, give that phrase a rest. But that phrase is not going to be as bad as when we go to Vegas, because Crofty's going to spend the whole weekend going, when in Vegas? You just know it. But yeah, I digress. The Alpines, P12, P15. For me, certainly, I thought a little bit of a disappointing performance from them. Obviously, Ocon 2 years ago won round here. Gasly was going pretty well that year in the AlphaTauri when it wasn't an absolute heap. Do you think they can use some of their race pace if they've got any to get into the points tomorrow?
I don't think so. I think really the only team that can get points. I'm sorry. I think the only driver that can really move their way out of the top 10, unless there is into the way to the top 10, is going to be Sainz. And we can get to that if we talk to Ferrari. But Alpine, I think they have to be one of the most disappointing teams lately. They are always talking about, we are going to be Fernando with his Alpine before he left. We are going up the trajectory. We're going to fight for these things. And they just keep going backwards. And today, I think, didn't Esteban on his last lap have like a purple sector 1 or something and then just faded out? Like it was looking like he was going to get in and knock Sainz out of farther down before Charles did. But you're like, all right, he's really in trouble. Then Ocon couldn't get past him on the pace. And you're like, all right, what happened towards the end of the lap there? I think Alpine is like one of the most disappointing teams, at least for me, consistently this year. They seem to be talking a lot and then delivering on the track seems lately to be at a minimum. And today's result especially shows that.
Yeah, I mean, Alpine are... they're just like a weird enigma at the minute. Obviously they've got no customer teams. Mind you, I don't know who would want that Renault engine, given how often it goes pop. And it's like 1 week they'll be, like really right up there at the top. The next minute they're doing a double DNF, and then so they're just like everything in between. So yeah, they're like Ferrari in that sense, where it's like you think, well, I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to have a good weekend, and you say, oh, next weekend you're going to have a good weekend. Then they're both out in Q2. It's just like, come on, give me a break, because I quite like Alpine. Yeah, I quite like both the drivers. Gasly gets a bit sort of whingy, but name me an F1 driver who doesn't. And it's just like it's just they're just going around in circles. I don't think Altmar's the best team principal for them either. By the way,
No, he's not. He is.
no,
He's not.
and they've just got rid of Laurent Rossi as well. I believe he's just been booted out the door, which I think was not the right idea. But what do I know? I'm just a nerd who watches the sport.
Well, they got those American investors too that just got.
Of course, yes. So Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney. I'm not quite sure how to say his name.
And then a couple of big time capital investment firms. That one of them has a seat on the board. Rob and Ryan really don't; they're just in it. But one of the people on the capital boards got a seat. So I wonder if maybe that he was angling for a bit of power already or something.
Well, quite possibly, because they've taken, I believe, it's a 24% stake. So, just one way of getting that foot in the door. But I want to see more from Alpine. And
I agree.
It would be nice to see more from them, because as a team they're sort of like stuck in this sort of like midriff at the minute. But speaking of teams that are stuck in a midriff, Aston Martin. So Alonso sneaked into the top 10. He qualified P10 in Q2, and then tomorrow he qualified P3 ultimately. So he starts the race. P8. What am I on about? P3. Where are we? Monaco. He qualified P8 in Q3. That's what I meant to say. So starts the race P8 tomorrow. Lance Stroll once again proving he's about as useful as a lame tortoise. He starts P14. Got out qualified by Daniel Ricciardo. Nice job, Lance. But don't forget, he's future world champion material. Right, okay. Let's just have a chat about Aston Martin. They started the season with big pomp and circumstance. Not saying that because they're British, but they came in like all guns blazing. People saying, Alonso, longest time between pole positions and blah 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 and all the rest of it. And it's like, well, they're P3 in the constructors, and at this rate, they're going to be losing that to Ferrari. When do you think Lawrence Stroll? I'm just going to pose the question to you because there's not much point talking about the qualifying. How much time is left, do you think, before Lawrence Stroll realizes, hang on, my son is just a rolling roadblock? Side note, he's been summoned for impeding Bottas in qualifying Q2, just to mention that. How long does Lawrence Stroll go, my son is a rolling roadblock, I need to dump him for Felipe Drugovich or Stoffel Van Dorn or someone else who is decent?
I mean, he probably should have realized that already after the last couple of results going on and how fast Fernando was in the car, and then Lance really not being able to outperform Fernando in that. But maybe now that the rest of the field has caught and overpassed Aston Martin, at least when it comes to the McLaren, that car has caught and passed them, that he will see that, we are really in trouble here. And if you look at the car based on how it was at the beginning of the season, they should have a clear lead, I think, in my mind, over Mercedes right now as the number 2. Not saying they would stick there for the whole season, but they should clearly be the second in the constructors right now. That's not the case. And as you said, Ferrari's probably going to catch them pretty soon. So that's a whole debacle, because they had one driver getting he got 5 out of the first 6 podiums, I think. You would think the other driver would be able to score a decent amount of points, and he didn't. I think Lance is at like 20 points or something like that. I could go check that out now, but he is not. He is totally underperforming the car. Stroll has 44 points this year. He's getting outscored basically by 93 points against his teammate. That's unacceptable. Any other team, it would be saying, all right, this person's on the hot seat. We don't know how long his contract goes, obviously, because his dad owns the team. There's no even saying about like who would replace him. There's no rumors if he's going to leave. Any other person, he's on the hot seat and he's done at the end of the year. So who knows what's going on with Lawrence, but he should have known that 3-4 races ago. And I do have to wonder if Stroll's wrists are still bothering him. You know, he had the incident before testing where he broke both his wrists, and he credit to him for still driving with it. Probably not the best decision at the beginning to drive with the 2 broken wrists. Remember, we all had him holding his wrist. And even last week, I think it was shown like he was holding his wrists again. So maybe it's just like his wrists aren't fully healed and they're still sore from this. But I'm grasping for straws to help him give him an excuse there. But still, it's like he has to be better. He has to be better, and he's not.
Yeah, he's just not. And you know, you made a very good point where you said if it was any other driver, you know, in a different team, they'd have been booted out. Just look at poor Nick De Vries. You know, it's just but no, Lawrence Stroll, Lawrence Stroll, you know, who believes he should be given I think he said he should be given an MBE, which in the UK, I don't know if you know, is called Member of the British Empire, which is where you get a medal because he has saved Aston Martin apparently, and he saved people's jobs. So yeah, you know, real power to you, Lawrence. Yeah, he'll be in the post.
Give those to Can they give those medals to non British citizens? They can.
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, I don't really know, to be honest, but you know, you might even hold, you know, citizenship. I honestly don't know, but yeah, that's another joke in itself. I mean, what Stroll said about getting a medal, you know, just to be clear, but yeah, I mean, Aston Martin, they're sort of just stuck in after such a promising start to the season, and we're all hyping them up. They are just stuck in this no man's land at the minute, so hopefully we see something from them soon. But I've moved my notes around as well. But just looking ahead of Aston Martin, anybody who's listening to this and doesn't know the results, you're probably thinking, "Oh, hang on, you haven't talked about Alfa Romeo yet." You know, they're normally before Williams, you know, or something. It's like, yes, there's a reason for that. Both Alfa Romeos into the top 10, and Valtteri Bottas was leading Q1 for quite a while. You know, he was fastest, genuinely fastest in Q1 for quite a while. I don't know what on earth they've done this weekend. I don't know what is in. I know they've got new power units, so that may help. But this is not a very power sensitive circuit. So Zhou Guanyu P5 on merit, and Bottas P7 on merit. What on earth?
I don't know. It can't. The power unit can help, but again, as we've said, this is not a power track. This is so. How much really can that help? I guess maybe they were just better on the hard. You can't even say they're better on the hard or the medium tires because the softs were at the end and they got 5th and 7th. It wasn't like they finished 9th and 10th and you're like, all right, this new format helped them out there. I don't know. Maybe they figured something out. Maybe they figured something out at this track. But look, I will say this. I am actually pretty happy for them because that car has not been good this year. I think Bottas maybe has fallen out of the love of F1 a little bit. He seems to be like on the Kimi Räikkönen path of just like, hey, it's fun to be an F1 driver. I get to race I get to race in all the races. And it is what it is where I finish. I want to do well, but if I don't, I'm going to be fine. And to me, that's a little sad because I like Bottas. I think he's still got the fire in there. I think this might re-energize him. And I am actually a fan of Zhou Guanyu. Sorry.
I was going to say.
I think he's got. I haven't talked about his name. I forgot to say his name. I haven't talked about it at all, barely ever. I think he actually has some talent. Like he has proven himself that he's got some pace. He's a pretty decent driver. So for him to get this result, I think it's a good result overall and a shocking result for the team, I will say.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I'm genuinely sort of like dumbfounded because I'm like, they were they had such little pace, and then all of a sudden they've just gone hello, and then they've just rocked up at, like we said, a difficult circuit, and they've put both cars into the top 10. P5, P7, just like there. And I hope that they can hold on tomorrow and get a decent result, because boy, do they need it. 'Cause I kind of remember the last time they scored points this season. It might have even been one of the first couple of races. I genuinely couldn't tell you, but yeah, they need a good result, and I really hope that tomorrow brings it for them. It just gives them a bit of a sort of step forward. What I will say as well is I'm glad that they qualified like this, because it means just one podcast this year I can say, are they just waiting for the Audi money? So it's just I mean, yes, they are, but Audi, they've already started putting money in. I should add, and this is obviously a good sign for them. But yeah, wow, okay, fair play, Alfa Romeo, fair play. But
do you think they're going to end up getting points or not?
I think they'll be on the fringes, because I think Holt's going to drop back.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to say, because we haven't seen them with like in any form of race pace.
Yeah.
So the only thing I can think is they might get stuck in a bit of a DRS train down the main straight, and then on the run from turn 2 to turn 3. So they might be able to just hold position somewhat and just sort of get through. But speaking of Ferrari powered cars that underperform, Ferrari. There we are. Nice segue. So Charles Leclerc P6. He's in an Alfa Romeo sandwich. And then Carlos Sainz P11 gets out-qualified by Nico Hülkenberg in Q2. Warren, what the hell, man?
Do you think when Fred Vasseur took over at Ferrari that his Alfa Romeos would out-qualify him once they're in a race this season?
I did not. Did you reckon he's sitting on the wrong pit wall this weekend? Do you reckon he's got confused?
He might have. He could have got confused. Ferrari, what happened to them? What's going on? What happened? They are just they're stuck. And like I don't know what you can say other than they are stuck. The car is not very fast. They can't figure out what the setup is going on, whatever track it may be. And I don't think any of their drivers have any confidence right now. I think Charles might be looking to go elsewhere down the road when his contract's up next year. He should be, for the sake of his career. And Sainz, if I'm Ferrari, I don't even know if I want Sainz to stick around. I don't know who they got the kid in F2 that's having a great season. I don't know his name, but I know he's having a great year. Maybe you replace him with him, but why would you want Carlos Sainz around? Because it always seems like I think he's a pretty weak driver, and I would look to replace him there, but I really don't know what the Ferrari is doing. They should not be getting out qualified by Alfa Romeo. They should be right up there. McLaren has passed them on the pace for this season. They should be right up there with McLaren and Mercedes and Red Bull, trying to fight for a pole if you can. And they're not even competitive for like the top 5 before, like podiums at least. No one expecting them to get a podium now this week. They're just not in that fight, and that is just shocking to me.
Yeah. Ferrari, just I'm not a Ferrari fan. I don't dislike any team. Even Mercedes. If people think otherwise, well, I can assure you I don't dislike Mercedes. I don't dislike any team, and I don't hate any driver. There are some drivers which I don't like as much as others, obviously, but I don't hate or dislike any driver or team. But Ferrari. One of my best mates, JR, who might even be listening to this, he's a huge Ferrari fan. He's American like himself. And he's very, very, very passionate about Ferrari. And I feel his pain, like secondhand, or like third party pain. Because by this point, he just laughs. And it's just like, if it's not like woeful strategy decisions, it's bizarre team orders, it's... just what it's just Ferrari, a team steeped in history and prestige in F1 and have earned the reputation they have, and to watch it just go down the pan again, oh man, it's just bring back Mariva Bene. Bring back Maurizio Arriva Bene. That's what I say. Shouldn't have got rid of him, but alas, what are you going to do, eh? So yeah, Ferrari, maybe they get points tomorrow. We'll see, won't we? But just looking ahead of Ferrari, the McLaren drivers. So Norris P3 and Piastri P4. McLaren baby are back, and I said this weekend would be like this sort of like, I can't say that phrase, the do or bust weekend. Because we've had two circuits in Silverstone and Spa where high speed, it's a lot of high speed corners. Look at Max and Beckett's, middle sector in Spa, etc. But Hungarian, completely different beast. High downforce. You're not doing max throttle half as much as you were in the other circuits. But McLaren on pace, on merit. Lando Norris P3 and Piastri P4. First of all, it's nice to see a McLaren driver alongside Lando who can actually take the fight to him and is keeping him honest. Sainz did a good job. I think Piastri's doing an even better job, bear in mind he's a rookie. Secondly, come on, McLaren. Let's see it. Warren, do you think they can convert this into at least one podium tomorrow? If dare I say it, because we'll talk about Merck in a minute. Your Max is probably going to by this time sail off in the sunset, whatever, even from P2. Dare I say it, that could McLaren get double podium tomorrow?
I think they might have a chance. They were robbed of a double podium at Silverstone. Seriously, like that safety car, they should have had a double podium there. I think they might have a chance, and I think that I said again, as you did on our podcast going into this week, this is the true litmus test of the McLaren upgrades. This is the track that we will see if they really can perform at all tracks. And what do you know, in qualifying so far, they passed the test. Now, race pace, you would assume that they can do that as well. But I think this is exciting that McLaren is back, a true challenger to Mercedes and Ferrari, as they pass Ferrari, as I just said, up there to fight for podiums every week. They've blown by Aston Martin. Aston Martin was the hot flavor at the beginning of the year, as we all talked about. Now it's McLaren, but I think this is great. And Piastri, look, a lot of people, he got a lot of shtick, and it wasn't his fault when he took over at McLaren. Ricardo was out, that whole ordeal. Everyone's like, are you really sure that Piastri is this? Look, he's proven to everybody that doubted him wrong. The man is uber talented, and to do this is in your rookie year. I don't think anybody thought he'd be the rookie of the year driver. I think everybody thought Prix would do it because of what he did at Monza last year in the Williams. They're like, wow, look at this. But he is certifying himself as a podium contender. I would say going in every week now, he's got a chance at the podium. And I think this is great. He's fighting with Lando up there, proving him, like you just said, giving him a true contender. I think this is great for McLaren. I think it's great for F1 that he's doing this, and it makes it a lot more exciting. And I like looking forward to seeing Oscar drive every time he's out on the track, especially in qualifying in the race. I enjoy him. I'm a fan.
Yeah, he's and just on the whole Piastri thing last year, it was about this time last year. All he was doing was protecting himself because Alpine dropped the ball. And he wants to know, am I going to be in a race seat or am I going to be spending another year on the sidelines? So I don't blame him at all. The way it happened was quite funny though.
Very.
But,
and Zach Brown has to be vindicated for the move he did.
Yeah.
If you look at him, like he had to look out what was best for McLaren. Yeah. And he should be vindicated for how Piastri's performing so far. That's a good move by him as a team principal.
The way Danny Rick was at McLaren, he would not be P4 tomorrow in that McLaren.
I agree. 100%. 100%.
He'd be where he is in AlphaTauri because we saw that so much from him. Mm-hmm. But he is rejuvenated. Now, he needed to get out of McLaren, and I think it was best for him and it was best for McLaren that he got out of there. And yeah.
I agree.
It's just good to see McLaren doing well after such a dire start to the year, with the hydraulic leaks and Piastri DNFing and all that. But yes. Okay, right. The next team we're going to talk about is Red Bull, and it feels weird to not be talking about them last because we usually go from bottom to top. So Perez shocked everybody by getting into Q3. He qualified P9 in the end. He was only he was 0.01 second behind Alonso. To be honest, he was a fraction behind Bottas in P7. So P7 to P9, they're covered by less than just over 100th.
He was also Max, 4/10 off a pole.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's not a lot. That's not a lot of time either.
Yeah. It was a very, very, very close grid. But yeah, Perez P9, Max P2. Didn't think I'd be saying that this year, genuinely. And we'll get into who's on P1 and his teammate in a bit. But yeah, Max P2, Perez P9. So Perez is right in the mix tomorrow. He's right in that sort of like bordering on the midfield scrap. I'd expect that Alpha, bloody hell. I'd expect that Red Bull to move up the grid. Whether it will, it's a different story. Depends if he bins it at turn 5 or not. And Max, well, he hasn't had the best of race starts this year. He's bogged down or been mugged off the line quite a few times. Lando did it 2 weeks ago in Silverstone. So, do you think tomorrow that, do you think Max will overtake Hamilton into turn 1, or do you think he'll sit behind for a few laps? Maybe have to be fighting off the McLarens? And what do you think Perez is going to do tomorrow?
So I think Perez is the key if the McLaren can get a podium. I think he is the driver you have to look out for if you're worried about McLaren not getting a podium. He's the one, because he is, any normal circumstances in the Red Bull, you would still think that they would finish 1-2 no matter what, just wherever they start. You would think that they would start 1-2. This track obviously harder to pass. And Perez has found it harder for himself to work his way through the field when he's granted he hasn't started in 9th in 5 races, but he's been way farther back. But still, you would think that he should be able to pass these cars. So I think Perez he should get a podium in my mind, but I don't think he will. I don't think he's going to get a podium more. And I think Max is probably going to have another bad start. I wouldn't be surprised if Lando maybe got past him at the beginning. He's starting on the dirty side of the track, right? That's not the side that you want to start on. So that is that's going against him. And as you said, he has not gotten a good start. He hasn't gotten good starts in the Red Bull, occasionally going back for a couple of years. Like he has got some poor starts. He hasn't figured out the starting on that. So I think he just sits back, waits for a couple 5 laps. In my group chat with my friends, I had a Lewis fan, and she was so happy he got pole. Which again, it's a nice story. But I said,
spoiler.
But how many laps is it? My favorite game is how many laps until Max is going to pass. Like when Lando got him at Silverstone, how many laps until Max passes? I don't know, maybe 5 laps, I would say, until he can pass Lewis. But for him, I don't think he's going to do anything stupid in the turn 1. Like everyone's like, oh, they're probably all excited. Maybe we get another collision of Max and Lewis. No, that's not going to happen, because he knows just whatever happens in the race, he's probably going to beat Lewis. And we all get excited when they get up there because you think fireworks are going to happen next to each other. Max has also matured immensely since 2021. Like he has matured so much as a race car driver since then. So maybe 2021 Max, we would get some fireworks, but I don't think we're going to get any of that tomorrow. So I would say that Max probably overtakes him within 5 laps if he doesn't get him off the line. And then Perez probably finishes like 4th, but he really should finish on the podium. And Perez, I said Yuki earlier, has got a lot of pressure on him too. Perez has just as much, because everyone thinks Danny's going to be in the seat in 2025. I don't think I agree with that, but Perez has to put some good results together just for himself, just to get this drama away from him. But again, the drama is probably never going to get away from Sergio.
Yeah, and especially with Danny Rick, out qualifying Yuki and going P13 in the AlphaTauri, people are going to start. They're just going to start going absolutely nuts about that. But yeah,
Oh, sorry. It started Friday when he crashed in turn 5. Like you,
His
seriously,
first hot lap as well.
his first hot lap, he puts it in the wall. Like the most voodoo, like the voodoo dolls, the Ricardo voodoo dolls couldn't even have written that script. Okay. The Drive to Survive writers or producers couldn't have asked for a better storyline going into, like, you couldn't have done anything funnier, better than that. Like, it's just like almost a chef's kiss. Like, this is, thank you for giving us that, but you couldn't have written that.
Yeah, it was. It was quite perfect. But yes, so just looking at Mercedes, then we just sort of like segueing nicely. Hamilton obviously on pole, record-breaking. Yet again, 104 pole positions, which like we know, I'm not a Hamilton fan, I'm a Max fan, but 104 pole positions, blimmin' heck. That is quite something. His first pole since Saudi 2021, and his 9th pole at the Hungaroring. 9 poles at the same circuit. That is quite some consistency and quite some record. So, yeah, we need to talk about his teammate. We just talked about Hamilton, sort of, like we, in that bit with Max. Let's talk about his teammate. George Russell, P18. Oh boy. Yeah, sorry. That's quite funny. So not the best outing for Russell today. He got mugged a bit by traffic in the final sector, and then his final flying lap, he was down 7/10 in the first sector. Tough day at the office, mate.
Tough day. I'm not the biggest George fan, I will say. He's one of my less favorite drivers. I'm not a fan as at all. So I thought it was quite funny. Also, like the Mercedes strategy today for him and Lewis at Q1 was very weird. They waited like 3 or 4 minutes before they got out on the track. George said after qualifying, we were always off cycle. And that's kind of what happened, how he got stuck in the traffic and to get the tires warmed up in that last turn before the straight. He got kind of caught out. He couldn't get on the racing line to get the tires warmed up and everything. It was a tough one for him. Did he have a time deleted too or not? I don't think he did.
I don't think he did, no.
I was wondering if he had a time deleted. I couldn't remember. I don't think he did. But yeah, no, it was poor from every which way. Again, from the out of sync strategy where they sent him out there. And then he got, look, his teammates on pole. He should have gotten out of Q1. Okay. He should have gotten out of Q1. No excuses. Even that it had to happen on the last lap. He should have got out. He don't care about the traffic, but that was basically the reason why he didn't get out of there, because the traffic, and he got hosed, and he's going to have a lot of work tomorrow to get points. Again, this track's hard to overtake, as you said a lot. If he gets some points tomorrow, amazing drive from him tomorrow. Amazing drive if he can figure out his way to get points tomorrow. But yeah, I don't know. I think I personally like George Russell off the track, but when he's on the track, he's always complaining, wants always the best strategy over Lewis. And he just always rubs me the wrong way when I hear him on the team radio. So I think that's what rubs me the wrong way with him in general. But it was a horrible day. I mean, Toto slammed the table. When's the last time you've seen Toto get that like emotional about something? He slammed the table that he was 18. That's not good.
Yeah, well, I mean, Russell does obviously, he has gone well around here in the past. Just look at his, obviously on pole last year, a bit of a fall from grace. And then the year before, getting his first points for Williams. Obviously not his first points in F1, but, his first, a lot of people remember it's his first points, first Williams points. So yeah, he's going to need a bit of a heroic drive tomorrow. And Hamilton, he just have to basically play duck goose with Hamilton, with Max for P1, which I think we all know which way that's going to go. But that is our roundup of qualifying for the 2023 Hungarian Grand Prix. Warren, as I mentioned at the start of the show, you're from the Paddock Pals podcast. Want to give us a quick plug of where you're at?
Yeah, you can find us on wherever you get your podcasts at. Paddock Pals on Instagram, TikTok, all the socials as well. My cousin and I, Rachel, she's been on Grid Talk as well. We do race recaps and previews, so we'll have an episode coming on either Sunday night or Monday morning about the Hungary Grand Prix. And yeah, we just kind of fun time with it. One of our favorite segments is since the TV broadcast always seems to forget a few drivers out there. It's I forgot that you existed, so we always like to see who is going to forget that you existed during the race. That's to look forward to when you listen to us. So yeah, tune in for that.
Thank you very much. And yeah, so I'm Tom. You know, as lot of you know, and then Grid Talk. You can find us at Grid Talk UK, and also be sure to listen to our sister show, which is Formula Talk, which I usually record with Sophia, but she is away at the moment, so that is currently going through various guests each week. But Grid Talk, as well as Formula Talk, is available on YouTube, where most episodes are recorded live, such as this one, as well as Amazon Fire, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Music, Verbal, and Pocket Casts. Just search Formula One Grid Talk for our back catalogue of shows with previews and reactions to qualifying and race results. Please consider supporting the channel on Patreon so we can get better mic lights and recording equipment. Also, make sure you are subscribed so you're the first to know when each new episode is released. We'll be back tomorrow to review the Hungarian Grand Prix. Thank you very much for listening to the Grid Talk podcast presented by Bet Online. Thank you, Warren, for joining me, and bye-bye. There we go, and we'll just segue into a little bit of a post-show. So we've had a couple of comments. So first of all, Wednesday, the stream is awesome. I hope you get more viewers soon. Thank you very much. You know, it's quite nice doing sort of like just almost like a one-to-one type of podcast like this. You know, it feels a bit more like a chat almost. You know, which is quite nice, and you know, I think that flowed quite nicely, Warren. So thanks, mate. Yeah. You know, it's difficult being like just the only one.
Right.
Who does it? But no, well done.
Easy. Good. I'm always used to doing a one-on-one thing. You want to talk about the qualifying format?
Yeah. So let's have a quick chat about that. So you know, I was going to do it in the main show, but we basically ran out of time, to be honest. Yeah, so obviously, you know, Q1 hard, Q2 medium, Q3 soft. F1 are doing it for they're doing it to be environmental and you know, like eco-friendly, which I get, it's a good idea. Do you think it works? Bear in mind, we've just had it once.
I thought it worked. I thought it worked great. I liked it. I think we saw some variance in there. Like, you would have to expect that if George was on the soft tire, he probably wouldn't have got kicked out in Q1. And one of the reasons why he couldn't get the hards fired up as fast, I think it brings some variance into the qualifying. And I was a fan. I know they're trying to, I don't know what the old school fan thinks of them trying to trick up everything or add new things in the middle of the season. The new format of the sprint weekend, I think it gives you something to look forward to. This qualifying session today, I wouldn't hate it if they made this like half the qualifying things. I know Lewis was complaining about like the fans on track on Friday couldn't see a lot of action because of the way the tire distribution was throughout the weekend. But personally, this qualifying, I think it's great. It brings a lot of unknowns in because you don't know if a car performs as well as they do on the hards as they do on the softs, and it could bring a lot of variance in. And anytime there's variance, I'm going to be a fan of it, and I think this produces a lot of variance, so I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's you know, one of the things that Brendel said in commentary was he was saying that about tires warming up and rubbering in and track evolution or the rest of it. We would get track evolution anyway, because regardless of the compounds that go around, they lay down rubber. You know, that's inherently what they do. So Russell would have continued to, even if it, was, a lot of people on softs in front of him, he would have still, the track would have ramped up that much quicker. So, people who are saying, if you've been on softs, you got through, I don't necessarily know. I think Mercedes really dropped the ball on that one, to be honest. And, they, they were, they just got it wrong. I get what they were going for, but Hungary is a kind of circuit where you need a quality in general. You always need a banker lap in. Because you never know what's going to happen. You never know. There could be a red flag in the session that get resumed. We saw that was it Miami when Leclerc spun out, and I don't think we resumed because that's how K-Mag ended up about P4 or something, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So just looking at the live chat, so Jared, what's with restricting the tyres in quali environmental reasons? Partly, yeah. So F1 obviously want to try and spice it up a bit. And one of the reasons for the sort of change in tyre rule is that it is environmental. It means they only bring 11 sets of tyres to a race weekend instead of 13. And there's not as much, excess waste and blah, blah, blah. It's also to try and sort of spice up the format a bit. We were supposed to have this in Imola, but in Imola, they never mind tyres. They needed, a blinking paddle boat, because that was rightfully rained off. The other thing that I want to get your opinion on, again, I was going to ask this in the show, and Jared, anybody else in chat, please feel free, to leave your comments on this. Is this gentleman's agreement? So F1, they always talk about the gentleman's agreement before qualifying, during qualifying, that you leave gap in this and that and all the rest of it. And I think today we saw yet more proof that it doesn't really exist, and B, I don't think it should exist. That's a personal view. I don't think it should exist if it even does. Because if you look at when Lando sort of just popped his way through, he was like, I need to get a move on. Other drivers like, I need to get a move on. And Russell didn't do that, and it's ultimately cost him. So, we've seen it a few times where this whole gentleman's agreement, leaving room and all the rest of it. And it's different if a driver's on a hot lap because you can't impede. Still waiting on the results of the Stroll thing, but he'll likely get a penalty in a grid drop, I'd say. What do you think about this whole gentleman's agreement thing?
I think it's going to the back of the train. They're going to get They're going to get caught out because the person at the front of the gentleman's agreement isn't going as fast. They're waiting for themselves. So why should they have to worry about who's ever at the front of it to have their qualifying fate in their hands? Because imagine if they had the gentleman's agreement and then you get the situation that you got at Monza, what was that, 2018, when all the cars didn't get over the start line that one time when they were all kind of doing the same thing, playing a bunch of chicken of who's going to go, and then they all couldn't get past there, whatever year that was. It could happen again. So you got to take your fate in your own hands, and that's what Lando did. That's what another car did. You know who really was going to get hosed that it worked out for him? But Bottas was on a hot lap, and I think he was going pretty quick. And if he would have got knocked out of Q3 or Q1, he would have been the biggest loser. But he didn't, because he got blocked by all those cars there. So this gentleman's agreement, I think it's crazy.
It's nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said in the chat, you just have to protect yourself, and you've got to if you need to get a move on, get a move on. There's no point thinking, oh, but someone was in front of me. They're a rival. Even your teammate is a rival. Protect yourself. Get a move on. That's what I say. But yeah. Just a few of the comments. So Derek Tate getting the Lewis, great job, Mercedes and the goats. Yeah, I mean, great job, Mercedes for Lewis, absolutely. Maybe not so much for George. And then Jared says 3,000th of a second. Max is going to be spewing. Yeah, Max is going to be a bit tampered about that because he didn't go that well in the middle sector because he got done for track limits before, so he definitely lifted off around turn 5. But yeah, it's fine margins, isn't it? And then all the teams are so much. Jared also said, sorry, all the teams are so much closer this week than I remember for a few years. Yeah, they are super close. They can follow. The question is whether they can overtake. That's another point. Also, Warren Jared agreed with you. He said, "Yep, I'm in the same mind with Russell. He has an entitled attitude, and he rose me up the wrong way. Can't stand it."
Glad someone agrees with me. I don't think that's like an outlandish. I think a lot of people start to agree. Like, I think he seems like a nice guy off the track, and that's the thing. It's whenever he's complaining of like, not even complaining, but wanting the better strategy than Lewis. Like he was like, he's always disappointed he doesn't get the top tier strategy. I'm like, George, the man's a 7-time world champion. Like, you're not getting the preferred strategy. I don't know what you thought you were signing up for at Mercedes, but
yeah,
you're second fiddle until Lewis is retired. Like that's what you signed up for. So just get it in your brain. I'm sorry, it's hard, but it's what do you expect?
Yeah. And it's like, I liked Russell when he was up with Williams, but then as soon as he went to Mercedes, I think it was ever since he had that outing in Sakir 2020, which was a sensational outing.
For sure.
His attitude and his demeanor changed, and that really reared its head when he had the crash with Bottas at Imola 2 years ago.
Oh.
That was the sort of turning point for me. And then now he's just like a cat that's got the cream. He is a very, very good driver. There's no doubt in that at all.
I agree.
And today he should have been a bit more of opposite of a gentleman, shall I say? He was too nice at the end of it. And Jared made a good point. He said there's a distinct lack of gentleman up there. I think the sandbagging before a lap just causes trouble. That's what you just said as well, mate.
I agree.
So it does cause trouble, and you made a good reference to Monza in 2018 or 2019, whenever it was, when I remember it was 2019 because Kimi was in the Sauber Alfa Romeo, whatever they're called, and he got impeded, and Ocon basically weaved in front of him and blocked him, and that's it's just this gentleman's agreement is just utter rubbish. Either stick it in the regulations or don't, but none of this we spoke about it. You can speak about something in person unless it's recorded. It means jack. So either stick it in a sporting regulation or sack it off completely. And I wonder, because obviously George Russell is one of the heads of the Grand Prix Drivers Association. I reckon this is going to be mentioned. And he's not going to be happy, and rightly so. But Mercedes didn't help. He didn't help himself. It was just a bit of a cluster F. But Jared just said, I've been annoyed with Russell ever since that run-in with Bottas and and slapped him with his gloves. That's what I just said. Yeah. But yes, that is, that's a nice little push, a nice little discussion there as well. I think we will bring proceedings to a close, unless you've got anything else you want to add, mate, anything you want to discuss.
No.
All right, lovely stuff. Right, well, Jared, lovely as always to see you in the live chats. We've had some good viewer figures today as well. Anybody, if you're watching this but not commenting, thank you so much for being here. It's helping us grow. It does mean a lot to us. Please drop a of course you can, Warren. Please drop us a follow on all our socials at Chris UK. And we will see you tomorrow. Bye bye.